Donald Atwater Cameron Jr. was born in 1962 in Prince George County, Virginia, but lived most of his life in Mercer County, New Jersey. In 1980, he graduated from Lawrence High School and then attended Mercer County Community College. After graduating from there, he joined the Marines, but became disabled and was subsequently discharged. Those who knew Donald said he loved riding his Harley-Davidson, fishing on his pontoon boat, and riding with the Patriot Guard riders. When he was around 40 years old, he left New Jersey and moved to Ohatchee, Alabama. Unfortunately, 7 years later, Donald would be dead. On Christmas Day, 2009, Donald failed to show up at his mother's home in New Jersey as he had planned, and was strangely not answering his phone. The following day, his mother called the police in Alabama and asked them to do a welfare check on Donald. When an officer arrived and entered the home, he sadly found Donald shot to death, execution style. The killer then stole Donald's PlayStation 3, which is allegedly how Michael William Kaiser became a person of interest by being caught with Donald's possessions in May of 2013. Kaiser also has prior convictions for past robberies in the same area. He was arrested and indicted for capital murder. The prosecutors then set out to seek the death penalty for killing a disabled veteran. Unfortunately, due to a clerical error, the judge dismissed the case without prejudice, which means the case can be retried. Unfortunately, as of 2024, Donald's murder remains unsolved. Grady Baber was born on July 25, 1925, and went on to serve as a private in the U.S. Army. He then became known around Mobile, Alabama, for selling seafood out of the back of his truck. In 2004, 78-year-old Grady had retired from selling seafood and was still living in Mobile when tragedy struck. On July 3, 2004, Grady and his dog were sitting in his truck near Hercules Street and Live Oak Street in Mobile when a man approached him and asked for some shrimp. He explained that he no longer did that, which only angered the man. He then demanded Grady's wallet and then, for no reason, shot him. Unfortunately, by the time investigators had arrived, rain had washed away a lot of the evidence. Thankfully, there was a witness, but it hasn't helped to solve the case. For the last 20 years, Grady's daughter, Deborah, has been trying to get answers, but as of 2024, this case remains unsolved. Granger Taylor was born to parents Jim and Grace. In late 1980, 32-year-old Granger was living in the Vancouver Island community in Duncan, British Columbia. He was described as an eccentric, shy, and socially awkward individual who was a master mechanic. While he dropped out in the 8th grade, he went on to become a mentor to young teens and made a living restoring and rebuilding machinery. He was so skilled that he even reconstructed a World War II aircraft. In 1977, after watching the Star Wars movie, he built a UFO-like fortress complete with a bed and a wood stove. Then, on a stormy night on November 29, 1980, Granger left a note for his parents to find. It said that he had gone to board an alien spaceship after having recurring dreams that told him he would embark on a 42-month interstellar journey. He also told his friend Robert that the aliens would come during bad weather in order to stay undercover. That night, Granger strangely disappeared. Before going missing, he stopped at Bob's Grill between 5 and 7:30 p.m. After leaving there, he went up into the mountains to a place called Mount Prevost. People who lived in the area heard a loud boom around the time he would have arrived at his destination. After that, he was never seen again. Law enforcement, along with family members, searched the area but never found any clues to his whereabouts. 6 years later, forestry workers found a blown-out vehicle near where Granger was last known to be. Investigators believe dynamite was the ultimate cause of the damage to the vehicle because, for one, Granger was familiar with using dynamite, and some of it had gone missing from his parents' property the night he disappeared. That vehicle was later identified by authorities as Granger's Datsun pickup truck. It's likely he was in the vehicle when it blew up due to the discovery of 2 human bone fragments and a piece of Granger's shirt. However, some family and friends claim the truck wasn't his because the color was wrong. The truck found was allegedly blue, but Granger's truck was Pepto-Bismol pink. People want to have the fragments tested with modern DNA tests, but nobody knows where the bone fragments are. In 2016, Vice magazine wrote an article that he was taking LSD regularly before he vanished, which might explain why he thought aliens were coming to get him. His mental health had also been dwindling around this time. There are others, to this day, that believe an alien spaceship did actually take him, or that the U.S. government faked the whole thing after recruiting him to work at Area 51. A film crew made a documentary about Granger called Spaceman and were trying to find the blast site but never could, which is strange because the hole was reported to be 600 feet in diameter. This case leaves so many unanswered questions, but the most plausible theory is that due to his mental health issues and drug use, he convinced himself that aliens were coming to get him and went up to Mount Prevost, where he set dynamite off in his truck while still inside. However, due to the note he left his parents, the fact that some family members claim the truck isn't his, and the element of extraterrestrial beings, it has made for a long-lasting mystery, which, as of 2024, still remains unsolved. In 1985, near St. Augustine, Florida, female remains were discovered in a shallow grave by construction workers building a beach walkover on Crescent Beach. Due to the decomposition, her cause of death could not be determined. The medical examiner estimated her age to be somewhere between 30 and 50 years old. She also had 3 surgical burr holes in her skull, which indicated she had undergone brain surgery at some point. She was also found with multiple healed fractures, most likely from a car crash earlier in her life. The remains were sent off to anthropologists, who determined that her remains had been at the location they were found for at least 2 years. Unfortunately, her identity would then go unsolved for the next 40 years. In 2011, a facial reconstruction was created and provided a few leads, but it didn't help identify her. In 2022, Sergeant Gene Tolbert with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Department attended a genetic genealogy seminar and then decided to revive the case. The department partnered with Othram, and a sister of the Jane Doe by the name of Pat Alamong was found. With that information, investigators were able to learn that the remains belonged to Mary Alice Jenkins. She was born Mary Alice Pultz in 1943 in Rockville, Maryland. In 1968, she was married with 2 children, living in Winchester, Virginia, and working as a waitress at a Holiday Inn. Sadly, she had recently lost her 6-month-old daughter, who died from pneumonia. On the day she disappeared, her husband was at work, and her sister Betty was babysitting her son. When she failed to return home, they reported her missing and then spent years searching for her. They assumed she fled town with her sister's ex-husband, John Thomas Fugit, who went by Tommy, because he left town on the same day she disappeared. It's possible they are correct, but there is no way to question Tommy because he died in 1995 while on death row. He had been convicted for strangling his male roommate to death in Clayton County, Georgia, in order to obtain the victim's $15,000 life insurance policy that he was a beneficiary of. It's possible that Mary traveled with Tommy to Florida and then he murdered her. It's also possible that he kidnapped her. Her son Norman was shocked to find out she was murdered because he spent the last 40 years believing she had abandoned them. Unfortunately, as of 2024, Mary's murder remains unsolved.
Nobody told you they love you today. I do. Sorry, my hair's a mess.
Michael Charles Richard was born to Max and Eileen on July 20th, 1975, in Metairie, Louisiana, and had 6 siblings. He then grew up outside of Birmingham, Alabama, in the city of Hoover. Michael's family called him a genius, but like a lot of gifted kids, they have trouble finding structure in their lives and often lack social skills. This was Michael. He was so smart that he once hacked into a local radio station frequency just to talk to his brother while on his way home. After dropping out of school after his sophomore year, he obtained his GED and then went on to earn an associate's degree in networking engineering from Virginia College. Unfortunately, he didn't put the degree to use and continued seeking assistance from his parents. His family spoke very highly of him, saying he was a kind, loving, adventurous person. They also said he was very much against drugs and alcohol and often brought food to homeless individuals around Birmingham. Michael loved urban exploration, and in July 2019, he released his first TikTok video on his Alone in the Dark channel, where he filmed himself exploring abandoned and unusual places. His content took off, and he amassed over 300,000 followers. He was well on his way to becoming a very successful TikToker, but unfortunately, those dreams were shattered in 2021. In 2021, 46-year-old Michael was working in packaging at Amazon with hopes that he could eventually find his way into the IT department so that he could put his networking degree to use. He was also putting a lot of time into his channel. He'd been dating a girl for the past 5 years, but by late 2021, they had broken up. He then let his apartment lease expire and began living out of his car. The last week in December of 2021, Michael brought his car in for service and was given a yellow Hyundai Sonata as a loaner car from the dealership. On Thursday, December 29, 2021, after getting off work from Amazon, he drove to the former Knights Inn Motel in Bessemer, Alabama, to sleep in the car as he had done a few times before. I read that he might have stopped by Jack's Family Restaurant, which is a fast food burger joint, but they typically close around 10 p.m., so that doesn't seem likely, unless they meant he parked there first. Unfortunately, the area around the motel was not well lit and had no surveillance cameras. It probably wasn't the best place to park your car to sleep in. The police had even warned him in the past about parking there. The following afternoon at 4:30 p.m., he was sadly found shot to death inside the car. The suspect took his wallet, but left behind his cell phone and work identification. As you know, if you've watched my channel for a while, cold cases that involve random acts of violence are incredibly difficult to solve, and this case is no different. It remains unclear if investigators have even identified a potential suspect, and as of 2024, this case remains unsolved.